What's up, Steelers fans? Welcome back to another episode of Around the Burgh. We're here live on the Around the Block YouTube, Twitch, at the ATB Steelers Twitter live to discuss the Steelers' thrilling comeback victory against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm your host, Mitchell Wolf, here with my co-host Shane Kubis. Shane, how you doing?
Better than we've been doing, or that at least I've been doing for quite a while, just watching the Steelers. So definitely looking forward to diving into this, talk more about just what we saw, which was just unexpected to say the least.
Yeah, this will be one of the first positive, really, recaps we'll have in almost a month at this point.
Recently,
So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, so let's just get into the end of the game situation because that's kind of what seems to be what people are talking
Yeah,
about,
for
obviously.
sure.
So the Ravens score a touchdown to get it to 2019 with about, I think, like 12 seconds left.
Yeah, it
And
was
they like
12
to go for
seconds.
two. And it seems John Harbaugh said after the game that Marlon Humphrey was injured and would not be able to play. So that was partially why they went for two, was to end the game there,
Yeah.
which I get. But I mean, it is the Ravens and you kind of expect them to be aggressive like that. But still, I think, without that information in mind, it was a pretty surprising decision.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the decision and I get it, especially even if it wasn't for Humphrey being hurt, because the Steelers' offense came alive in the fourth quarter, and it really seemed like we were just in a role that wasn't going to get stopped. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really a coin flip, obviously, in that situation. If you go to overtime, and if they don't get it, that might be game right there anyway. So they decide to take the positive momentum that they already had, scoring the touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
and just try to roll with it, which isn't a bad decision, I don't think, but it's just the execution didn't work out.
Yeah, I think that if Humphrey is healthy, I think they might have kicked it
Maybe,
because,
yeah.
the Steelers offense did come alive in the fourth quarter, but, it's still a pretty anemic offense.
Yeah.
Their offense did just move the ball right down the field. So, if they got the ball back immediately, they could drive down the field again, you would
Yeah,
think.
you think
And if
so,
they
yeah.
didn't, if the Steelers got the ball back, the Steelers offense had been pretty anemic to that point. So, you might have a pretty good chance of stopping them. If you get the ball back, you only need to go, a few, if you get like one or two first downs and you're already in field goal range for Justin Tucker. So,
True, yeah.
I respect the decision to go for it. I think you can quibble about it being the right decision. I think the play call probably was good. I think the execution of it not blocking TJ Watt was obviously the biggest issue, which is something that teams still seem to be trying to do, is just not block him, which I just don't really understand.
Yeah, it's just the problem with it is one, it's like you definitely don't want to leave the best player on the defense unblocked. Outside of him and Hayward, obviously kind of interchanged week to
Mm-hmm.
week, but like you can't leave him unblocked because one, he's smart enough to not take any sort of cheese you might be trying to throw at him most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to misdirect him or get him off a spot or whatever, but more importantly, he's just going to be able to chase down anything that you even with Lamar. I mean, he's still going to be
Yeah.
able to stay in front of him, especially if he already has the angle on him. We saw multiple times where Lamar's trying to escape, and he did obviously do a good job of that, especially early in the game. But they were able to keep up with him once he was trying to escape the pocket. And then especially in that situation, like you don't want to give there to be any chance Lamar not having a clean window to throw, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he has nobody in his face in that situation or Watt is nowhere near him on that play, that's a 2-point conversion. Like
Mm-hmm.
Andrew still almost made the one-handed play on it, and it was still a good effort on it considering Watt was right in his face.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't really fall. I think Jackson played pretty well for most of the
Overall,
game.
yeah, overall, yeah.
Especially as a runner, he's just so slippery that he's just like
Yeah,
impossible to stop. No
it's
matter
tough.
how, like, there were just guys all over him all night, and they just still couldn't really tackle him,
No.
and he was just escaping tackles the whole night. And it was very frustrating, but it's great they got the win. But in terms of the rest of the game, I think people were kind of mad at the defense for giving up that 99-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah.
Which was fair, but I mean, you could tell by the last two plays they were just gassed and couldn't keep up. But I mean, other than that, they were pretty stout for most of the game. If you hold a team to 19 points, I think that gives you a pretty decent opportunity to win most games.
Yeah, I mean, about a quarter of their offensive production and a quarter of their time possession was all in that one drive,
Mm-hmm.
realistically.
Yeah,
And as much as it sucks to give up a 99-yard touchdown drive like that,
yeah,
the fact that you still came away with the victory means that the rest of the game on defense went pretty well. There's still obviously some things that need to get cleaned up. The tackling still really isn't there a
mm-hmm.
lot of the time, especially some of those dump offs on third and longs
Yeah.
that
That
were
was
like
really frustrating.
and the second down, like anytime they had second and like 15 plus, they were always getting 9, 10, 11 yards
Yeah,
on the second down play. Like you can't give up that much on plays that you've already backed them up because that's why they were able to convert a lot of those third downs that they had.
yeah, yeah, and like the scheme is working because you are forcing him to take
Yeah,
that check down. but then you're just not executing after it because you're allowing those running backs and tight ends to be able to get upfield and make defenders miss and get a ton of yards. So, and with Lamar's kind of perceived or real inaccuracy issues, maybe it is better to almost force him to throw downfield at times. So maybe you just want to cover up those underneath routes a little better.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like realistically because he's gotten better at taking those things and he's good at getting a lot of those out now. Like forcing him down the field would be the smart thing more often than not. I still think obviously with his especially if he's throwing to Brown or some
Mm-hmm.
in some cases Andrews, it's still not a good proposition, especially with some of the corner
Yeah.
play we've had. But
Yeah.
this game, it seems like they did a really good job overall keeping them from getting down the field and giving him opportunities, especially with the pass rush not giving him enough time most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, the pass rush. I mean, this was like probably T.J. Watt's one of the best games of his career. I think he
Yeah,
had 2.5 sacks,
3.5 actually.
three
That's
and a
what
half. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
he's
I mean,
credited with
just
3.5 and
yeah, crazy number. A
forced
lot of those were
fumble.
kind of the forced fumble, which went out of bounds. But I mean, even so, like I felt like a lot of the times the Steelers would be really stout on first down, and create those second and long opportunities. Like they would get in the backfield, get a tackle for loss to start the drive, which is great. But then they just didn't really have the people, the horses to keep it in second and long and third and long, which was the issue.
Yeah, they would just keep bouncing back and forth between giving up a big play and having a big play. Like they just didn't have the consistency down to down. But there's enough plays made that we got them off the field enough times to be able to let the offense go down and get the win. So
Yeah, and I thought the game plan from the Steelers' perspective was interesting, was because they were blitzing more heavily than they really have in recent
yeah,
weeks, and it seemed to be kind of a all or nothing game plan. Like, listen, like we're either going to get tackles in the backfield, we're going to sack Lamar, we're going to force him to throw the ball away, or we're going to kind of give up these big plays. And I think that obviously the result in the end was positive. There were some hiccups along the way, but I think that in this at least one game sample size, that was an effective game plan given the kind of holes in the roster due to injuries and such.
yeah. I think for the most part, like right now, because of the fact that with the way Lamar's playing and some of the decisions he's made, like forcing him to make decisions quickly or pressuring him immediately, with the way their offensive line is playing, is the best way to try to force some of those mistakes. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if he does hit some of those big plays, if you can hit enough of the plays on your end, it kind of balances themselves out and doesn't let him just drive down the field constantly. Like ever since that Colts game where he just dominated the entire, just kept
Mm-hmm.
like, moving them down the field as he wished. Teams have realized, like at this point, with the way that team is, they just can't let him beat them. And if they can get pressure on him consistently, he's at least going to have to make some big plays if he wants to stay in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, credit to Keith Butler for allegedly devising this game plan and,
Yeah,
blitzing the hell out of like Arthur Mollett and Trey Norwood and, everybody he could, he was sending at, they blitz Cam Sutton sometimes, they were split. I mean, a lot of the times they were even coming out in like a 3-6-3 defense where they
yeah,
had
it was weird. Yeah,
three down linemen, three outside linebackers, and they kind of moved TJ around and then
yeah,
the two, um, inside backers, and then only like three defensive backs. So that was an interesting move. But if the Rams are going to come out with like their fullback hybrid player, two tight ends, and a running back, then
yeah.
yeah,
You
you
can
might
get
as well
away
do
with
that.
it. Yeah, you can get away
Yeah,
with it. Yeah.
exactly. All right, we'll move on to the offense. Actually, one more thing about the defense is I think this was kind of the issue with the game plan, and then just the problem with the injuries, that all the margins for this defense, this is kind of how the offense was early in the season. Like all the margins for the defense are just razor thin. Like
Yeah,
if you're, just out of position by a little bit against, and it works against most opponents, but especially against this offense. Like if you are, out of position by just like a hair, and you get blocked, like it's over. And you just, and the guys that are there, your Montravius Adams is your Derek Tuzkas, your Akella Witherspoon had a very good game. I'll say
yeah.
that.
He
But
actually finally made
yeah,
an impact. Yeah,
yeah. But those players, if those guys are out of position, like they just don't have the talent to, be able to get back in the game and get back in the play. Like, and you have like guys like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward who can do that, but there's just not enough guys in the field like that. So I think that was kind of why the Ravens were able to have some of those longer successful drives early in the game.
yeah. And like that's what goes back to like the inconsistency. Like we had some really bad run play, like plays against the run,
Mm-hmm.
like we have recently. Where overall, I mean, you look at the numbers, it doesn't look too bad, especially considering it's the Ravens that we're dealing
Mm-hmm.
with. But Freeman still had some really nice runs
Mm-hmm.
occasionally. A lot of his yardage, like his yards per carry, is just because there's a couple negative plays here and there. Is
Mm-hmm.
really all that was keeping it from being higher. Lamar obviously did what he does as a runner, so they did enough. obviously, to win this game, and I think that overall, I'd have to say that they played well,
Hmm.
especially the pass rush mostly, and then even some plays on the back end. But this is the problem with this team, is that everything needs to be perfect right now,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
everything needs to either be perfect or it needs to be this balance of like they need to at least get specific stops at specific times, right?
Hmm.
They're really not going to be the dominant unit that we were expecting because of just the lack of talent in certain areas on the field and just injuries. But as long as they can make the big plays and not give up too many themselves, this is the outcome we can hopefully expect them.
Yeah, I mean, they held the Ravens to only 107 yards rushing, which
Right.
4.3 yards per carry, that's really good,
That'll get the
especially how
job
much,
done. Yeah.
yeah, especially how much they've struggled the last few weeks. So now we'll switch over to the offense, and it was a pretty rough stretch for probably 3 quarters of the game.
Yeah,
Um,
pretty much the
they
entire
didn't,
first 3 quarters.
yeah, their first two drives didn't really get anything. And the Ravens just held the ball pretty much the whole time. Um, their next drive didn't really do anything. And then their drive right before that, they got that field goal
Yeah.
after I think that was the Deontay drop in the end
Yes. Yep.
zone play, which, that is a tough ball to catch.
It
Because just
is.
like the
Yeah.
tracking is tough, but that's just a play you have to make. And luckily, Deontay definitely made up for it with his play later in
Yeah.
the
Which
game.
we'll talk about him more for
Yeah,
sure.
but
But
that's just one
yeah.
where you're just like, really wish you could have that. So, and I mean, Steelers go into half at down 10-3, and you're like, or was it even 7-3?
Yeah.
Um,
7-3.
yeah,
Yeah.
7-3, and you're like, this is like, it feels terrible. You're like, oh my god, we're getting killed. It's like, well, it's only 4 points.
That's the thing with the game is like watching it. I'm like, there's absolutely no reason why we should be within 4 points of this team.
No.
We just didn't have the ball enough to even have any reason to have to be within 4 points of this team. Like realistically, that's the only reason why this game was manageable at the end, was because we didn't let the time of possession in the first half snowball into a 21-point lead by the Ravens when we very
Hmm.
easily could have. Like the interception we got in the first drive, just getting them off the field multiple times, even whenever they did have the ball for a little while. That gave us enough time and gave the offense enough opportunities to finally get back in the game at the end. And obviously, you don't want that to be the case every week, but they managed to do it this time. And when they had the ball less than 7 minutes in the first half.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
that's
nuts.
just ridiculous. Like you shouldn't be in a football game
Hmm.
if you have 7 minutes of possession time at any point in a half. Like it's just there's no reason you should be in it. And the fact that we were says a lot about the defense, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And like Steelers' first drive out of the half, they don't get anything because of a ridiculous
Yeah, I
overturned catch by Ray McLeod, which, and this is kind of how, like, people were mad at the officials when the Steelers played the Bears a few weeks ago. And,
yep.
the officials were bad against the Steelers in the Browns game. They're bad against the Steelers in this game. There's really not a good point in getting mad at the officials for a single game just because
It just isn't.
it's
Yeah,
going to affect every
it
team positively and
yeah.
negatively on a
It
week to week
ebbs and
basis.
flows
So
for sure
yeah,
from week to
yeah,
week.
exactly. So you just got to kind of live with it. But Ray McLeod, I don't understand how you overturn that catch. I just
I
don't
it
get it.
just to me like it's one of those things where it has to be so like because the angle that they showed, right?
Hmm.
Like yeah, you could guess that maybe the ball was impacted the ground and it popped up from that. But he never really lost
No,
possession
like
of the
he
football.
had
He
control of the button.
yeah,
Like they have said, like the ball can touch the ground if it is within his control, and it was like I just can't explain. Like it was very
it's
much in his
too if
control.
they let me put it this way, and this is the easiest way, and this is what most people say, and I agree with it. If they called that an incompletion and they didn't overturn it and make it a completion, I'm fine with it. But they called it a completion on the
I don't
field,
even know.
and
Like
they like it would have to be clear enough, right? They always say it has to be clear enough to overrule, right?
yeah,
And to
yeah,
me, there's no way that was clear enough. If I would have been
no,
fine if they let it stand if it was called the other way, just because it's like whatever. But
yeah,
this
I
one is totally
guess.
not clear enough to overturn it. I don't even think it was clear at all.
Yeah,
Period. But
honestly, like if they had called it a non-catch and Tomlin had challenged it, we know what the outcome would have
yeah,
been.
it's anyway,
So
so whatever.
it's kind of a
But
moot point, but still, just a ridiculous.
yeah, I'm just glad
Um,
it didn't end up
yeah,
meaning
I
much.
just
Luckily,
didn't. I just like that just didn't make any sense to me. Like I was like, I
no,
don't
I
understand how
just
you. Yeah,
yeah,
but anyway, so Ravens get another field goal. Steelers, they punt again. And then
yeah,
it's just nuts. I mean, like, and they couldn't really get anything going on the run. They were trying their best. And they had that field goal drive where Ben was kind of doing the hurry up thing just because the time was running down. And but then after that, they were still trying to kind of run this Canada offense, which I was like, and kind of a lot of people on Twitter were saying, this was the game to have Ben just kind of take over
yeah.
and do the hurry up offense. And they really didn't do that until about the last possible drive, which was kind of surprising to me.
And that's something that I wanted to talk about for sure with this game is like, and we've talked about it. I don't think on the live shows, but we talked about it in some of the other shows. We like the midweek show. At this point, considering where we're at in the season and the fact that Canada's offense just hasn't really produced points regularly, like running his style of play just hasn't worked with this team. And a lot of it, yeah, his play calling has not been good, but like we're just not set up to play the way that he wants to play
Mm-hmm.
anyway. We just aren't with the way the offensive line is playing. As much as it was a downfall last year, at this point, because we've already reached this front season, I would just rather have Ben a lot of the time, especially in like gotta have it situations, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Let him do what he needs to do. Let him do whatever he thinks needs to be the play call. Because at this point, it clearly works better whenever he's doing that so
Yeah.
far this year. And yeah, we can't do it all the time like we were
Mm-hmm.
doing last year. It can't be this shotgun, throw it 60 times offense. It can't be that.
Mm-hmm.
But at least sprinkle it in enough where it's like Ben has an opportunity to try to create something with his receivers because again, Canada's not getting it done on a play calling basis right now.
Yeah, and a lot of people were kind of saying, "Oh, like they need to go to this full time," and I'm still not on that train
Right?
because we
No,
saw how that's just not it's not tenable. Like
no,
we saw how that goes last season, and obviously they do have a better run game kind of this year.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
maybe that I don't know, maybe just be a little more willing to go to it, because they still didn't really go to it until basically the fourth quarter because they have the ball right when the quarter turns, and Ben hits that play action shot to Claypool over the middle on 3rd and 1, which he tried the deep shots, on 3rd and short
which
multiple other times. I'm
okay,
just like, and there was one time where I think he almost tried it on 2nd and 1, and I was like, that's fine.
that's yeah.
Do it
So
then. Don't do
I
it on 3rd and 2 when I get it. It's cover one. You have that throw, but you're just not hitting them enough, and you are because you miss that. You have a 3-and-out. You kick the ball back to Baltimore, and it's just like it throws off the whole flow of the game.
so first of all, we all knew it was coming.
Yeah,
Whenever
yeah,
it happened. Like
yeah,
and that's the problem, right? Is the defense knows knows it's coming. They just don't care because he's
yeah,
not hitting them,
exactly.
right? So that's the first thing. At some point, I think one of the two things needs to happen. Either the coaches need to go up, whether it's Tomlin, whoever needs to do it, needs to pull Ben aside and be like, listen, I'm just gonna need you to understand this. If you throw a deep ball in 3rd and 2 again, I'm putting in Mason Rudolph for the next drive.
I mean,
I
he
don't
knows it's an
care.
empty threat.
So,
That's the
I
problem.
but I would do it at this point because it's one drive. You know what? I mean, the worst thing that happened is an interception, which he could do anyway himself. Whatever.
Yeah,
The point is, I would do that to him. Be like, listen, I understand you want to take, you can't do it anymore. Stop it. Okay.
yeah,
Find Pat Fryermuth or Najee. It's do something. Stop doing it.
yeah.
Okay. Stop
It's
it.
just it's just
Or
so.
option two, right, is just always tell him it's like 3rd and 1 only on 2nd and 1. Like don't let him see. Like just try to hide the markers. Be like, listen,
Just put
it's
Zach
second.
Banner in
It's
front
third
of
and one,
the
Ben.
down
It's 3rd and
marker.
1. Throw it like just something. I don't. Whatever you have to convince him that 2nd and 1 is or 3rd and 1's actually 2nd and 1. That's fine. Just do that because then he'll actually take those shots in 2nd and 1 when every other team does that because that's when you
Yeah.
should do that.
Yeah,
But
that was
whatever. That's
yeah.
besides. It's
but
not going anywhere at this point.
Right. So he hits that, play action shot to Claypool across the
Yep.
field.
Mm-hmm.
Good catch and run. Then the very next play, they kind of boot the other way. He has that great pump fake and hits Deontay wide open in the middle of the field, which is,
awesome.
I think that they did a lot of this. It is they did the switch releases where they kind of had the receivers, kind of scissor into each other. Yeah, and that worked a lot of the time, which was interesting.
Phrasing on that one.
Thank you.
Anyways.
But I mean, Deontay was. I mean, I don't think he could have been more wide open. And Ben kind of gave him like an iffy throw just because he didn't even like try to get him to run after the catch. He was just like,
no, he's like,
throw it to where you are. And sit
right.
there.
It's like just don't drop it. I'm not going to miss
exactly.
you. I'm going to throw it exactly where you already are. And
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you're that open, you have that luxury. But it's the thing with it at this point, and actually Romo mentioned it on the broadcast a couple of times. We're still the last ranked team in play action in terms of use, right? If that's the part of the offense that Canada needs to really focus on and instill in this team is you need to be able to run play action off of this stuff. Outside of that, like a lot of the stuff, I think Ben can still call some of the plays like we talked about, but especially the running game and the play action aspect of things, drawing stuff up for that. That's where his influence really needs to be a part of the game plan because that's what is actually working when we use it, right?
Yeah, and like a lot of those like RPO throws, it's not exactly play action, but a lot of those were working really well.
Yeah, exactly.
And Ben does a nice job of like varying how like which throws he's throwing. Like it's not always the same ones, but it's like, all right, this time I'm going to throw the slant. This time I'm going to throw vertical. This time I'm going to throw the back shoulder off the vertical. This time I'm doing this. So like he does a good job of varying So it's not just like, okay, like they're going to run an RPO and it's going to be this route. There's a lot of different stuff they can do.
Right, because you can run a lot of your stuff
Hmm.
through that as long as you're not throwing the same slant routes and these
Yeah.
2 yard little out routes. Like as long as you're not throwing the same routes, because that's what we got in trouble with so much last year was so
Hmm.
much of it was the same
Yeah.
concepts route wise that teams knew what was coming. If you're going to
Yeah.
keep switching it up like that, especially the back shoulder, those are the best ones to me.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
like realistically, the chances of it going poorly is pretty much non-existent a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And best case scenario, you get your 8-9 yards, and what we saw with Deontay with the one catch. I mean, he took it up the sideline after broken
Yeah.
tackle for another 15 yards. So those plays especially are really nice to see with the RPO action. But just anything like that, whether it's actual true play action, that needs to be a bigger part of the passing game off the run game. And also we saw it helped with Harris. Like he got going much more after we started hitting some of those
Hmm.
things. And his best quarter in a while was this fourth quarter for
Yeah,
sure.
because they were running pretty much everything out of 11
Yeah.
personnel, and he
Mhm.
was getting a lot of room to run. But so the next drive, the Ravens get a big play action or pass interference penalty on Minka, which was questionable. I think it's just it's pass interference. It's really tough to call these
Yeah,
days.
it sucks. It
Um,
is on
there was another
underneath
penalty
too.
that I want to bring up. There was the deep throw to Deontay where he got popped
Oh yeah,
by Chuck
yeah.
Clark. I thought that was clean.
I mean, it was a clean hit for sure. It's one of those things where it's like because of how far the ball was thrown away from him,
Hmm.
it comes into question was it unnecessary roughness opposed to an
Yeah,
actual true like something like that. Because
yeah.
realistically, you get hit like that when the ball's nowhere near you after the play, it's still going to probably draw a flag most of the time, right?
Yeah,
Like
I,
that's
I
the
was.
problem.
Yeah, I didn't really care because I was just like, he put
Yeah,
his shoulder right into Deontay's chest. That's a fair hit,
yeah.
and seeing a lot, and like I get it. Like a lot of Steelers fans were like, "Oh, this is ridiculous," especially because they called the flag on the taunting on TJ, which
Which
for
I
just
don't know what he.
saying. I mean, he must have said something really bad because
You hope so, because otherwise, like, what the hell is the reason for the
yeah,
call? Like,
that was
I
ridiculous too.
hope he said something
Yeah,
honestly
like
kind
you
of
have to,
stupid.
otherwise it's like, why are we
Yeah,
throwing this? But
right.
the all these Steelers fans like whining about that, and I'm like, listen, like nobody was complaining when Hines Ward was taking Ed Reed's head off on
Jeez.
these blindside blocks. So let's
Yeah,
this. I mean, this is a rivalry game. That was a very clean hit,
yeah.
perhaps unnecessary, but let's just move on. But anyways,
Right, like, it's one thing that, like, I think the reason a lot of people, like, even the ones that realize it's a clean hit had a problem with it is just because if the ball had just got glanced off his hands or something, if it was on target and he takes that hit,
hmm
then it's like, okay, well, he had a nice clean hit on the sideline. It was more
yeah,
so the aspect of the ball getting overthrown so much that they didn't like, which I get that,
yeah,
but
and I
you're
think that
still
if the
right,
ball
though.
was more on target, he leaps and then he's a defensive
Right,
player, and then he gets that
exactly, that's part of it
protection.
too, yeah.
Yeah, but next drive, Steelers drive down, get a field goal. I don't think there's any. That was one where they threw it to Washington kind of randomly in the
Yeah,
red
which
zone.
I don't know what again, another like stop with the third and short like deep plays. Like just
That was on
try to
3rd and 8,
get the
so that's
was it
kind
eight? Oh,
of
that's right. No, it was
yeah,
third and eighth. So
yeah. That
but
was
like
a
you don't
little
have
more
to take a
acceptable.
shot every time.
Yeah,
Then
but
like
this
just
this was the drive where I think the run game kind of started to open up a little bit. They
yes.
really
Yeah.
leaned on Najee kind of pretty much the whole drive, and it wasn't perfect. But I mean, the only time they threw the ball, oh, they threw a check down to Najee.
Hmm.
They threw a short route to. Oh, this was the one where Deontay turned that one upfield.
Yes. Yep.
But they only
Mhm.
threw it 3 times in that drive.
Yeah.
So they really started to lean on the run game. They forced the punt. I assume that was the Renegade drive where they played Renegade during the TV timeout. So they get a quick get the ball back. They sack Lamar. I think they sacked Lamar like 7 times.
It was 7 times. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was the
which is
final count.
nuts. Yeah,
Wormley had 2.5 of them.
yeah. Wormley was
He
awesome.
was he was that dude
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So then the Steelers get the ball back. They have their touchdown drive, which was fantastic. This was again where they ran the ball a ton, ran it really successfully with Benny Snell as well, I might add. So good for
Yeah,
him.
good for Benny. I mean, we're not exactly fans of Benny Snell in this this channel,
No,
but
but two
the
two consecutive carries for five
yeah,
and 8 yards respectively. So I'll give him credit where it's
yeah,
due.
I'll take it.
I
Like
think the
he's
interesting thing was the possibly intentional offsides that the Ravens had out of the 2 minute warning.
yeah,
That
because
was
that seems
interesting.
so just like straight up blatant that it was like
Yeah.
it didn't make sense. And like I always love when they don't give Ben those calls, not because they should. Like I wish they did, but like he just gets so mad about it. It's so funny.
Yeah, because
He
he just
gets
like
so
spikes it right down to the ground. Yeah.
he's just like, give me the
No.
free play, man. Like I want to be able to throw this bitch wherever.
Yeah.
Like it's insane.
It would have been interesting if because like I mean that's Chuck Clark, so he's a veteran player, so he knows what he's
Yeah.
doing. But like if they had timed that wrong and they did give him the free play and it was like a touchdown.
It's like, oh, crap. Jeez.
I mean, Harbaugh is like he's made a living that of like knowing these like these very detailed nuances of the rules that he can like exploit. And I think that was a good call. Like that gave the Ravens more time that allowed them to get that last touchdown. But this was the quick touchdown to Deontay and the whip route, which was awesome on third
His route
down.
running, man, just
Elite.
sometimes
Yeah,
it's
I mean
just nuts.
he cooked Humphrey, and he gave Humphrey and Averett more so, but he gave
Yeah.
Humphrey some issues today, and obviously Humphrey's hurt. But and then the next play they throw the 2-point conversion to Muth, where that was perfect throw by Ben. This was really, I think we'll talk about it a little later, but probably Ben's last game against the Ravens in Heinz Field, and performance for the ages from him.
For sure, especially compared to what we saw last week and just in general, like this year for the most part. Like this is again an example of like if we could get this level of play from him on a consistent basis this year, even with the defense still having some issues and the offensive line struggling, we would at least have a better chance to win some of these games that we've lost. And we're just not getting consistently, which we're not going to with the guys close to 40 and has broken down a lot for sure, especially with his mobility and everything. So, but this was an example of what he can be still right now whenever things are going well for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the final drive, we kind of talked about the ending, but Ravens go down the field. They do score a touchdown. At one point, TJ Watt sacked Lamar, forced a fumble.
Yeah.
They also called holding on Villanueva,
Yeah.
which I think there was some interesting debate as to whether they should have accepted that or not.
It's tough.
It's tough to say because
after that play, though, there's just too many soft coverages that they just took advantage of.
There were also multiple missed holds on TJ Watt on that drive.
That is true, yes. But, I mean, this is what we come to expect.
Exactly.
So there's games that we've watched that, like, if they called holding on every time he should be, then the game would just never end because they just keep pulling him back. It wouldn't
right, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the other weird thing, and I think we kind of skipped by it, but there was the Boswell miss extra point, and then he had the kick out of bounds on the final drive. So just some weird stuff from him. And, I don't think the kick was blocked or anything. The hold looked good on the extra point. So just a weird miss. Otherwise,
I don't think he's like there's anything wrong with him like physically because we would have probably realized that by now because they would have said something. But weird all of a sudden just for him to kind of have those two breakdowns. I don't know, but obviously luckily it didn't matter at the end. So.
Yeah, and it was your typical Presley Harvin game. He has the 164-yard punt, which rolls out of bounds at the half-yard line. Of course, the Ravens then take that 9
That's the worst part about it, right? Is even that punt, it's like, great job, Presley, but it didn't matter even a little bit.
Yeah,
like, oh my God.
But, he had other punts that just didn't really go anywhere.
Right.
So just kind of his weird season continues.
The weird inconsistencies, yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, it was a really enjoyable game just because of the comeback. And obviously one of the most heated rivalries in the NFL. I thought a lot of the guys that they kind of signed this, in the recent weeks and just promoted recently had great games. We mentioned Akella Witherspoon had a great pass breakup.
He did
which could have been an interception on Andrews.
I thought it was going to be, yeah.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty good most of the night. Like they asked him to cover, deep third a lot. So he kind of let up some underneath routes, but that's kind of his job. So it is what it is. But I thought he was really good. Montravius Adams was pretty solid as the nose tackle, unlimited reps. I think he got called for holding, that's just always the dumbest call for me. Like the defensive line holding calls, I just don't really get them.
I don't know what how they determine that half the time. It's just weird. But
he made some plays, getting into the backfield, helping out other guys make plays. John Leglu, who I want to say that I noted him in preseason. I was like, this dude is really good at run blocking.
Yeah.
And he was really good. And then they put him in today because BJ Finney got hurt and he was kicking ass the final few drives when they've had to put him in.
And when you think about it, like moving forward, right? And I think Tama mentioned him specifically after the game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. At this point, they can't pass block worth anything half the time anyway. So does it really make that much? Like at least if you have a guy in there, like
Ben wasn't sacked today. He had one sack for 0 yards, which was I think it was the RPO where he
just tried to run and didn't. But like even then, like the pass blocking hasn't been great by anyone's consistently this year anyway. So like why not have a guy that if he's gonna run block like that, at least it gives you something. And I think this is something I wanted to mention too at the run game, and Romo brought it up a couple times. I like watching them whenever him and Nance are doing it because he says
people it's weird, like people like loved Romo at first, and they kind of got tired of him. And now people kind of hate him. And I'm like, he's still like, obviously, like
he does what he does. Like,
Jim is like, that's a lot.
He has a shtick, and it is what it is. But
he is
very
I
knowledgeable,
can't
I
even
would
like
say.
parsecs better than Phil Sims.
Yeah, it's not like it's
Phil Sims
compared to
was the
some guys.
worst.
I know, yeah.
He sucked.
This it's crazy, but with him, like he mentioned, and I agree with him on this, and I think it's something that we did see more as the game went on, and hopefully we will see more of it. But when we just have the line, just when we just tell them, listen, just steamroll ahead
Hmm.
100%. Like don't try to get
Let
cute with
Najee
it.
figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
That is at this point, especially maybe we get some more reps from Legally, like you said. At least then we're trying to get an actual push because it's protecting him behind the line a little bit more than we
Hmm.
have the other plays. And it gives him a chance to actually get going and then make a decision.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really, in my opinion, like a lot of his big runs this game were, or the big runs, but his positive runs were
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
types of plays. And at this point, as long as we're getting him out of the backfield,
Yeah.
that's all that I care about. Because if we
Because
can get
there
him
were a
past
few
the
runs where
line,
he just like
right,
they handed him the ball and there were guys in the
no
backfield
chance,
immediately, and it's just like
absolutely zero
you
chance.
just can't do anything. Like,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
just nothing you can do with that. So at least then, hopefully, we'll be able to see him actually have a couple chances to break off some longer runs or just more consistently the
Hmm.
6, 7, or 8 yarders at least. So
Yeah, I mean, as long as they don't have really a dominant offensive line, like and this isn't really his game to begin with, but he's never going to be that guy that's just breaking off like home runs. Like
no,
that's just
he's
not
not.
it. Yeah, that's just never been his game. But if you can get him to have some more chunk runs of 8 to 10, 12 yards, that would just be fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, so before we get into like our 3 stars and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, we should address that there was the report from Adam Schefter that Ben has
Yeah.
indicated this will be his final season. I think that this is a pretty credible report from Schefter, but given that it probably came right from Ben's
Probably
phone or his agent's phone.
or his inner circle or somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, given Schefter's recent history of interacting with people and reporting their personal
Yeah.
news. So this, I think that it's good that Ben has confirmed this is the final ride. I'm still skeptical as to if they can make the playoffs. They've got a short week this week against the Vikings, who just lost the Lions for what it's
Yeah.
worth.
Yeah.
But the Vikings are still a solid team. They obviously have the Chiefs, the Titans, two division leaders, the Ravens again, and the Browns again. So it's not, the AFC is was very wide open in terms of the wild card playoffs, but they're going to really need to buckle down and keep winning these games. But it does seem to be the final ride for Ben.
Yeah, I think like we've talked about it, and I think that we kind of assumed that that was the
Yeah.
case, obviously, and I think most people that really follow Steelers also assume this, and some cases really want it badly, which I understand to a certain extent. But it gets like at this point, the way he's played this year, the on and off, and just the inconsistency. I just don't think I think he understands like he can't keep this up, right? He's
Hmm.
not going to be able to come back and actually make a significant impact positively past this year, even if you could
Yeah.
make the argument he has this year. And obviously, compared to what we have, sure, but it's still one of those things where the Steelers need to get on this of what are we going to do past him, right? Like
Hmm.
they need to make that move and just do it, deal with it. Like, and it's not going to be easy no matter how you do it. It's going to be messy probably a little bit no matter how you do it to a certain extent. So at least if Ben is kind of talking about it in that way and understands that, hopefully we can kind of move on from it in a good way and just not have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, and like I think he knows just with his inability to move in the
Yeah,
pocket and move outside of the pocket, if at all. I think
just
he's kind
move.
of been like,
Yeah,
all right, like I can still kind of throw it. The accuracy deep is not there consistently, and the full strength isn't there, but I can do that a little bit. But I think he just knows like, all right, listen, I gotta do this and kind of let the franchise move on. We'll do kind of a full post mortem of Ben and
oh
his
sure.
career at
Yeah,
the end of the
once we
season,
get
and
to
all
that
that.
point,
But
yeah.
that was kind of the big news this weekend. But in the meantime, we'll do our 3 stars of the game. Um, start with our 3rd star. I'm gonna pull up the box score stats just so I have them. Shane, you want to go first? I think I
So
have
for
mine.
me, I'm gonna just because obviously it was a slow start for him, but down the stretch it really helped us, chew the clock and get things going. And he just has his typical high volume game where he gets us enough yards and yards from scrimmage. Going to give it to Harris for the 3rd star for sure.
Okay, nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so 21 carries, 71 yards. Not too impressive. Adds on 5 catches for 36 yards. So 26 touches for 107 yards. So not the best average, but caught all his targets, converted a good number of first down, or got the offense in favorable downs and distances. That's great to see.
Hmm.
So yeah, good choice. I'm gonna go with hmm, this is tough.
Yeah, I think I think I know what my third star would have been if I didn't want to give it to Harris, and I think it might be a good fit. I was thinking good old Chris Wormley.
So I think that's who I'm going to go with.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that. So 5 total tackles, 3 solos, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. Was just in the backfield consistently. And this
Yeah,
Ravens offensive line, isn't the dominant version of itself from a few years ago, but it's
right.
still quite good. Kevin Zeitler is a good player.
Yep.
Um, Ben Powers, Bradley Bozeman. These are all like solid players. They had to switch their right tackle out due to injury.
Yeah.
But he was just in the backfield harassing Lamar all day.
Hmm.
And for a bigger guy, it was tough for it's hard for him to chase down Lamar, but he was given 110% every play. In a big revenge game for him against the team that traded him. So, great for him to kind of get this big game. We'll snake it here. So I'll go with my second star, and I'll give it to Deontay. Um, you know, awesome game, took tons of catch. Aside from the drop, that was kind of the low point, but made a lot of clutch catches, on slant routes to get first downs. Turned a lot of his catches into big yak plays too. Had a few up the sideline, and obviously the 2 touchdowns and to pretty much win. Get the Steelers back in the game and then to win it. Just tons of great plays from him, and really great to see him succeeding this well. He's had a really hot streak of games this last month or so.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that Deontay would be my second star, but obviously don't want to double it up here. I want to give this to Ben just because, like I
Okay.
said, I think that just from a like start to finish standpoint, and obviously didn't get many opportunities in the first half, but this was as good as we've seen him all year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just much less of the glaring, like, what are we doing type of moments and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, this is, again, like, this is the peak of what I think he can be right now
Yeah.
at this point in his career.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think that's fine if the defense can hold up
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
everyone else around him can play well. And this is what we need to see from him, though, down the stretch if we want to stay in the playoff race.
Yeah, like we can like that deep shot to Claypool earlier. We can complain about it. It was pretty close, and like
Well, I
that's
mean,
kind of
if Claypool doesn't try to push off there, just keeps running through that, I
yeah,
feel like he
yeah,
might have a shot to at least
yeah,
maybe it's not a clean catch, but he can dive for it or something.
yeah. Like that
But
was that was one
yeah.
of his 3rd and 4 deep sideline shots. That
Right.
was among the better
Yeah,
ones.
it wasn't like this egregious, like, what are we doing here, guys, type of like things where he normally does it. So
Right, exactly.
could have been worse, yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned them earlier, but I do want to give some like kind of honorable mentions to a guy like
Yes.
Akella Witherspoon,
Yep.
who had a really solid day, kind of just coming up, especially having given up some bad plays early in the season. He had a really solid game. I also Devin Bush was not a major liability today.
Yeah,
I
he
think.
to me, like watching him, it's like he had the really nice cover snapper in the
Hmm.
first drive against
Yeah,
Andrews, where he's able to keep. Lamar made a great throw on it, but he put it the only place he could
yeah,
put it where Bush wasn't there. So
yeah,
he wasn't the. Let me put it this way: I was much less upset with him watching this
yeah,
game than I had been the last few weeks.
hmm,
So hopefully, maybe that means something
yeah,
the rest of the year. If he can be better the rest of this year and go into next season with a little bit more confidence, that's fantastic. But
yeah.
he's still obviously not right now at this
Yeah,
point. So
just a game where he wasn't like the main liability on the defense. I think that was huge for him.
right.
But based on how this has gone, I can imagine that we have the same first star,
Yeah,
pretty unavoidable, and we talked about him. It's TJ Watt.
TJ it's just disgusting. And again,
It's
I
really just
don't.
the Cam and TJ show this
It
season. The
it
first
really
star.
is like these two. I mean, you can make an argument that they both deserve to be top 3 or 4. I mean, TJ needs to be right now the top guy, but Hayward's right up there, defensive player of the year, just alongside of him. Like just in
Yeah, I
terms
mean,
of the
like
impact.
we're like, oh, TJ, the like best game of going. Cam Hayward, 4 total tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hit. And again, like another big guy that was really hustling all over the field. Trying his best at 300 pounds. But I mean, TJ was just incredible. Like you could have tacked on maybe 3 holding calls that weren't called on
Right.
him. Obviously, his play in the last play of the game. If he's not there and doesn't get in Lamar's face, that's a 2-point conversion and they win the
Hmm.
game.
Right.
Big sacks on Lamar. And again, a lot of and we kind of get on TJ, like these aren't like the most pure sacks because it's not just like beat your man immediately and get the quarterback, but like these are hustle sacks. And against a guy like Lamar Jackson, those arguably matter more.
Yeah,
Because
like the thing with him is like he does have plenty of like especially one-on-one wins, right? Like
mm-hmm,
you can't have him one-on-one with just about anybody and expect to do well with that, right?
yeah.
But that's just not going to happen much, especially whenever we don't have as much depth along the offensive defensive line anymore. So when he does get those one-on-ones, he does seem to win those pretty much consistently. But it's the ability to fight through the double teams and the chip blocks and everything else and still find the quarterback and make sure that he doesn't have a chance to escape or make a big play off of these scrambles, especially against
Mhm.
a guy
Yeah.
like against Lamar.
Exactly.
You cannot let up at any point in the play until the play is over, because if you do, he could catch an edge on you. He could get
Mhm.
down the field. He could find somebody down the field. And Watt did not let him do that consistently.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's going to do it for us. We'll be back probably on Wednesday because obviously we've got a quick turnaround. We got Steelers game against the Vikings on Thursday night, so we'll be
Yep.
back on Wednesday night. In the meantime, Shane, let the people know where they can find you and your work.
You can find me at Steelers ATB, and I'll be the one tweeting mostly nonsense, probably sometimes, especially as the game devolves into the fourth quarter. I think I mostly just tweeting Muth
It's
and
a Vikings
other
game, so
things.
it's gonna be
Oh,
like
it's gonna
it's
be
gonna be nuts.
ridiculous. Yeah, it's gonna be stupid. But you can find me there. Definitely look out for more. Hopefully, said Steelers stuff from the Steelers ATB account, and just articles, things like that. Hopefully, more as the season wears on. But that's where you can
Mhm.
find me right now.
Awesome. You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolf, WOLFE on Twitter. Just make sure you follow us there. Follow Around the Block on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, the ATB
Yep.
Steelers account. Make sure you're following us all on all our accounts there. We'll see you guys later this week with our next episode.